Hi Anti-Society, welcome back to the Anti-Social Planet, and today we are watching episodes 296 and 297 of Bleach. So last episodes, we got to see some cool fighting from Yamamoto, really getting to see some of his Kido powers and like the fire manipulation that we've seen a little bit of back in the Soul Society arc. Didn't fully get to see him fight because, of course, Wonder Weiss got involved and caused a few issues with how he was able to fight, but he did manage to catch Aizen by surprise, and we always love someone who manages to catch Aizen by surprise because, as we also found out in the last episode, everything is Aizen's plan. We got a few different clips that were going through Ichigo's life where we were seeing how Aizen has been observing him, his different thoughts throughout the process, and little references to things that were going on in the background of some of those scenes that we saw, which I really appreciated actually because yeah, it's just recap, but it's coming back to those particular scenes that are really pivotal to who Ichigo is and letting me look at them like through the lens of knowing that Aizen is somehow involved in these events, because obviously until the end of the Soul Society arc, I didn't know who Aizen was to like even comprehend that he would have any involvement in, Ichigo meeting Rukia and some of the earlier on hollows that he was fighting and meeting Ishida and all that kind of stuff. So getting to go back and watch those scenes and see some of Aizen's influence on those was actually kind of neat, and I hope that we will get to see some more of exactly what he wants Ichigo for, because we didn't get any context for why Ichigo is important to Aizen in particular. But it looks like in this particular episode that we are going to be watching that we maybe will get some of Gin's story. There was a brief clip in the preview of him fighting Ichigo, so maybe we will get some Gin context of everything that's going on. I will be interested to know if Gin has holification like Tosen does. We had Aizen kind of saying that he doesn't have it. He has the Hogyaku like in him to use its power, but I'm pretty sure he said like he wouldn't risk using holification on himself, which kind of makes sense. I feel like he'd want to perfect the process before he did anything to himself. So I don't know if Gin also has holification or not. I don't really know how that'll turn out, but maybe we'll find out sometime soon. More importantly, we saw a brief little glimpse of Isshin in the preview, which I am more concerned about because, one, I love Isshin. I love when he shows up. I love the goofy dad, but we also have a lot of unanswered questions at this point in the series about the whole him being a Soul Reaper thing. So, like, also, like, when did he become a Soul Reaper? How long has that been going on? Why isn't he part of Soul Society anymore? There's a whole list of things that I would like to know, but also Ichigo doesn't know. So, that'll be an interesting conversation if that ends up happening. We also, like, we briefly, very, very briefly got to see him fight when he was going up against, Grand Fisher, which I always pronounce wrong because I always think of the Fisher King. We got to see him sort of fight against him, but it was really just to be like, let's see how overpowered Isshin is. But of course, that was way at the beginning of the Arrancar arc, and we have met far more powerful adversaries since Grand Fisher. So I'll be interested to kind of see how he would hold up in a context where there's like Aizen and Espada and holification and stuff like that. I guess we don't really have Espada anymore. Yami's doing something, but he's like the only one really. But obviously in the context of like Aizen, everyone kind of seems a little bit outmatched. I mean, Yamamoto did a really good job. He just, Aizen planned to deal with his powers and he knew a lot about how his abilities worked. So that's usually the issue here. So maybe we will get to see some of Isshin. I don't know if that'll be something that comes at like the end of the episode and then I'm just gonna have to wait until we watch the next one. But luckily we watched 2 episodes in a video, so I won't have to wait very long to find out. But let's just get into episode 296. In 3, 2, 1, go. I'm not ready for this. I can just feel it. I wasn't sure, if we were actually gonna get, like, to explore the whole Isshin thing, or if they were gonna, like, save that till the end of the episode for a classic cliffhanger. Um, but it looks like we're probably gonna get to see that, so I'm pretty excited. It's something I've been wondering about since we found out about it, like, way back. Wasn't that, like, one of the first episodes of the Arrancar arc? Because that's, like, when, because, like, Grand Fisher was, like, way, way back at the beginning of that. And we still had the, like, mod souls from the filler arc that were just kind of around. This opener makes me so nostalgic because it's Sid. It just makes me think of, like, 2000 and, like, 6, 7, when I found out who Sid was. I discovered them as a band. It was a way early on in my anime journey. Yep, man with a plan. Shinji. Back when we were still sort of trying to figure out who he was. I remember being so suspicious of him. Now I remember, is it Fract who really loves Shinji? Who was like, you're gonna love him, he's my favorite. And I was like, I don't know, but now I'm like, I get it. I do wonder if, like, Ichigo had, like, gone with Vizard, if he would know, like, what the plan was between, like, Vizard and Urahara. This is when Ulquiorra first showed up with Yami. Ugh, my heart hurts a little bit seeing Ulquiorra, and after everything that happened. It's complicated. Sort of. Different direction, though, with the whole power acquisition. I remember this too. I kind of miss I miss Urahara because we haven't seen him in a while. Not exactly. But this is like the first kind of full holification. Oh, that time ago. Little did I know it was only a brief approximation of what was to come. Because, goodness, did that develop? Isn't this when they were first in Las Noches? When Ukeota like first picked a fight with him? What happened to Nell? Is she okay? She just like hanging out? Same with like Grimjo. Like nobody killed Grimjo. Grimjo's still just around somewhere in Huecomundo. I love this fight though. Still one of my favorites. I don't know, there's just something about like the camera work and the animation choices and the fact that like Grimjo like doesn't use a Zanpakuto, he just fights with like his own like physical strength. Which I guess like Zanpakuto you're kind of channeling through the weapon, but yeah, and then this happened. This still freaks me out because we are gonna have to deal with this at some point. So does Aizen also know that that happened? I assume he does to some extent, because we're including it in the summary of things that Aizen knows. Ugh, the way he's in shadow during this too. Ugh, the way that they had to bring the size of the screen in to like crop it. It was smoothly done though. You know, the thing too is like I was talking about how he developed so much during the Soul Society arc. And if you think about it, that's when he was like in close proximity to Aizen. So like, and then during the Arrancar arc, he was kind of, I mean, obviously still in Hueco Mundo and like Las Noches and stuff like that, but it was kind of like Aizen didn't need to put as much, um, didn't need to kind of push him as much so that he would develop enough. It kind of plays off of the audience's expectation too, where like us, we expect our characters to only go up against adversaries when they have like some kind of compatibility with their power level, because that's just like how narratives work. But even thinking that Aizen's like you've kind of let your expectations color your judgment, even like as an audience member, which I think is really just cool. Just got a Boyd there too. You have to choose who to trust. It's true though. It's easier to believe things that like fit with your the beliefs you already have than to like completely shift the way that you think. I totally forgot that Renji had those like glasses to detect spiritual pressure, like specifically to find her. I would also like to know that. Why Ichigo? Oh dang. See, like that's what I was saying before. I'm like, I wonder if it has something to do with his parents. And a Soul Reaper. Hello, Isshin. Finally decided to show up. I want to know what their connection is, like their story. I'm so glad this is happening like partway through, and I don't have to like. They're not gonna like draw it out too much. Obviously, I get to watch another episode after this, so it's not that big of a deal for me, but. Nope. Yep. So, your dad's a Soul Reaper. Uh, Pretty powerful one from the white on his outfit. It's a long story. Are we gonna hug him? Are we gonna give hugs? Or be dorky dad? I'm waiting for one of them. Oh, is he trying to get him out of the way? You put distance between Aizen and Ichigo, but in the way only Isshin can. I forgot how chaotic they were together. So y'all are gonna have to have a conversation. Aww. Aww. Look at Ichigo being understanding and sweet. Aww. Technicalities. You gotta break the tension sometimes. That's me. I can't do like heart to hearts really well. I always gotta like make a joke to break the tension. I mean, fair enough. He probably doesn't need to help Aizen, so why do anything other than watch? I guess now it's like 2 against 1 though, so maybe he's getting involved. I'm kind of excited to see Isshin get to like fully fight. Even if I'm a little bit nervous about it. Ooh. Oh dang. Isshin like flicked him through a few buildings. I don't really know how powerful Isshin is. So everybody is like paired off a little bit. Oh, I'm so excited. Worried, but excited. I'm a little bit... I feel like I'm worried about the whole Isshin fight because I need Isshin to be completely fine at the end of that fight. Because if he isn't, I'll be so heartbroken. I'm not prepared to lose Isshin in any way, or see him get horrifically hurt. I feel like maybe we're gonna get some Gin now, because, you know, Bleach likes to give some character context when the fights happen. So if Gin's like really getting involved in the conflict now going up against Ichigo, I feel like we're gonna get some, you know, some background on him. Maybe even like why exactly he continues to work with Aizen. I know that he kind of sided with Aizen when he was really young, but I'm sure there has to be some other context to why he's still helping him, or why he chose to side with Aizen when he was a kid. Preview, please. Oh, is Matsumoto keeping an eye on the fight with Gin? Has Isshin just been hanging out with Ishida's dad for a little while? A little bit upset. I'm so excited that we are getting some more Isshin and like maybe some context for him. I know that Ichigo said that he wasn't going to ask about it and like they're going to have to talk about it later because obviously they have like some more important things to be dealing with than the whole like let's talk about your past and why you're here and stuff like that. But I feel like because there's obviously a connection between Isshin and Aizen that we're going to have to like deal with some of it in terms of just like seeing them interact with each other, that we're going to get some kind of context for who Isshin is and like his connection. Because I was thinking this earlier, always kind of processing stuff that's going on in Bleach because it's an obsession at this point. We could just let's just have the facts be what they are. But I'm not really sure where the timeline is between Isshin and Aizen because I don't really know exactly when Isshin left Soul Society and if that overlaps enough with Aizen, because obviously Urahara has some kind of connection with Isshin. I don't know if that is during when they were both part of Soul Society or if they've like connected in the living world after like leaving the Soul Society. Obviously we had the Pendulum flashback arc and Isshin wasn't part of that, so I'm not really sure like where Isshin's timeline is with the Soul Society. So I have been wondering for a while like how much Isshin and Aizen like know of each other, and it seems like they do to some extent. So we'll have to see kind of where their paths overlap. I wonder if it goes back to like slightly before Ichigo was born, because obviously Aizen's saying that he's known about Ichigo for a while and the potential of Ichigo. So I assume that maybe that's where it started, if not farther back. Again, timelines are weird with like Soul Reapers because it's a lot longer than humans, so we'll have to kind of see where Isshin's story ends up being. I know that there's some backstory. I don't know if it's an episode or if it's just in the manga, like a side story or something like that, where we actually get some more context for like Ichigo's parents. So I'm sure that eventually, because we're like I said, Obsession, we're gonna have to get through all of the Bleach stuff. We're gonna get to all of it. I'm too far into the fandom at this point to like not go through all of the Bleach stuff. So we'll get to some of that eventually, but it looks like maybe if I had to guess, I would say we're actually going to be focusing on Gin for a little while, because obviously, you know, Aizen's kind of the last fight, but if we get to see some of Gin's fight with Ichigo, get some backstory, you guys promised me in the comments that I am going to get some kind of, if not backstory, then at least like the motivation for Gin, like we kind of got with Tosen, where we had like some flashbacks with Kumamura, but also like just him interacting with Aizen and kind of him giving some context for why he is working with Aizen and stuff like that. So I'm hoping for some of that with Gin, because he has been such a mystery for so long that like I would love to finally get some clarity on who he is, but I'm also a little bit worried that I will get some clarity and then my heart will get broken, because I cried during Tosen's fight and I cried during Ulquiorra's fight, and I'm not ready for that to happen again. And I know that people like Gin, so I feel like maybe it'll be kind of like with Ulquiorra, where I was like, I kind of understand why people like him. I don't understand why he's like some people's favorite, and I know that Gin is some people's favorite, and I'm just like, I'd prefer not to have my heart broken. But we also have Matsumoto, who has like some backstory with him, so I feel a sad ending to Gin, and I don't know if I'm mentally prepared for that. But at the same time, I do love a good character-driven story, so hopefully we'll get to see some of that, and we'll have to see if Ichigo has to... I mean, he's using his holification to some extent, but he still hasn't gone into the, like, scary horns thing that he was when he was fighting Ulquiorra, so we'll have to see if that becomes an issue, because like I said, we're gonna have to deal with that at some point. And I wonder if Isshin knows to the extent that that is a thing that his son is dealing with. But I would assume that I assume he knows to some extent that Aizen has been experimenting on him. I feel like he was kind of lurking in the background when Aizen was talking, so he kind of has, if he didn't know before, I'm sure that he knows now. So I assume that there is some perhaps anger behind his more easygoing smile. If I had to guess, I would say that we're maybe going to get some little bits of that fight, but it's not going to be kind of the focus for a little while. But maybe they'll kind of half and half it like they've done with some of the Espada fights. But I don't have to sit here and speculate, because we can just move on to the next episode, 297. In 3, 2, 1, go. I don't know why that was hard for me to do. Excuse me, Ian? Oh my goodness. Everything is coming to some kind of... I know that, like, there's, like, this episode, and there's a couple of fillers, and then I think there's, like, 5 episodes left in the Arrancar arc before we get into, like, the last arc. So, like, we're so close to the end of like this story that I'm like excited, but like also I don't know. I don't know if there'll be a satisfying conclusion. It's just such a long story thread that it's like to think that we're down to like basically Gin, Aizen, and I guess Yami's still technically around, but we've just like it's fine, you know. Kapachi and Byakuya can handle that. I have the utmost faith in them. Okay, I'm gonna get Totoro now because I don't trust this episode not to hurt me. Yep. I bet out of all of the like, you know, dad and son reconnecting moments that I would have envisioned for this kind of reveal moment, Isshin headbutting Ichigo off of a building was not anywhere on my radar. I think it's interesting with Gin though that like he has like the lines around his eyes, which shows like he might seem like he's playing, you know, kind of laid back and unconcerned, but you can see that there's like a certain amount of restraint to him. Like I feel like there's far more emotion behind Gin's kind of more upbeat demeanor. The fight music's coming in. I want to know about Isshin Sanpakuto as well. Ooh. Has Isshin seen Aizen's Shikai? Because that's an interesting uh thought too about like where their kind of timeline would be, like how much interaction they've had with each other. Because if Isshin hasn't seen his Shikai, then he would also have some kind of advantage, like Ichigo would. Oh, this was also so long ago. I feel so nostalgic going through all of these clips. Yeah, this is one of like the early examples that like maybe Soul Society was a little shady. But maybe Soul Reapers weren't just like inherently good guys. Really? See, that's me too. I don't understand what motivates Geen. I don't know what he wants either. He's just like you only hit the surface and then you can't really get any farther. True. Yeah, like it always feels like Geen isn't interested in the thing in front of him. It's like Geen wants something that's like outside of what's specifically in front of him. I look how Ichigo's just like, fight me. It's a very big sword. Uh oh, his eyes are open. Makes me uncomfortable. Because, like, his eyes being open means that, like, he's showing more of himself, Like, he's being more honest to his true nature. It's true, Ichigo's a lot different than he was back at the beginning of Soul Society. The irony of Gin calling someone else creepy is not lost on me either. Can she, like, sense his spiritual pressure, like, increasing because he has Bunkai now? Also, can we talk about how Gin just like totaled a bunch of buildings just because he like used Bankai? Okay, like, can we talk about that? What are we doing? I guess he can like rapidly change the length of his sword too, which is like hard because how do you know how to dodge when you can't like figure out what your opponent's reach is? You'd better move. I guess the also like all of the rubble, like destroying the buildings means that like the footing that they're fighting on is difficult too. Except to cause rubble. Look at Ichigo being smart and observant. Proud of him. That's very fast. Like if it can go 500 times the speed of sound, it's very intimidating. I mean, points to Isshin for keeping up with him, though. What do you mean, as a soul? Reaper? What's happening with the Hogyoku? What are we doing? We're just gonna leave that? Just put a pin in it for later? I mean, Geed is definitely gonna try and play with them, because that's just part of Geed's persona. I don't like the bass sound. It sounds like a heartbeat. I mean, stranger things have probably happened. That's a little terrifying in the hands of Aizen. Interesting that like his face was in shadow too, so it was like almost like the Hyogoku was like speaking instead of Aizen. What about my sweet boy? Is that why it happened? Because we've known that like Sado and Orihime's powers are like different. Like they don't fall into like the normal powers, and like they talked about them feeling like Arrancar and like Espada powers. Sure. What's the context for that? Because wasn't it in Rukia for a while? So like was it connected to Rukia's desires? Was it connected to someone else's? Was it doing its own will? I have so many questions. Um, what's it doing? What did the what does the tentacle things mean? Boys. There's like something important going on. Maybe focus. Excuse? Was that Urahara? It was. Oh, I'm so happy to see him. I felt like my whole heart swelling up to see Urahara again. I honestly have such a soft spot for him. Oh, I'm so excited. Because that means Yoroichi is probably around as well, and we love her. I was wondering when Urahara would show up, especially like with all of the like planning that he's done. And I just remembered that we have filler stuff, so I'm not gonna wait until the end because we'll just get filler preview, so we'll end. So, like I was saying, I'm so excited to have Urahara back, partly because I got a soft spot for him, but also because we know that he's been planning something to deal with Aizen for a while now. Like, he's known a lot longer than the Soul Society. He's been working with Vizard. He's a man with a plan. He was able to kind of maneuver around and with Aizen when they were both still in the Soul Society. So if anybody can figure out what the heck is going on and bring all the pieces together, it's going to be Urahara. So I'm excited to have him there as, you know, someone who's kind of the mastermind behind everything that's going on, and to have him show up. I'm assuming that he was working on something before like showing up to the fight. Obviously he knew it was happening. You know, obviously some time has passed. I don't know how much, because anime fight time is like weird and it warps, and sometimes it feels like it's been going on forever, but it's only been like a few minutes because anime fights. So I don't actually know, but he has to be doing something in that time period. So I'm very excited to have him back. I want to know exactly what's going on with the Hogyoku. I feel like, because Aizen's like, Urahara never fully understood the power of it, and like maybe he does because he stepped in and stopped whatever Aizen was doing. So like I wonder if Urahara does understand it better, because we know he has some connection to holification anyway, because when Vizard went through their holification, he was like, I know something about this already. So we know that there's a lot more to Urahara and like what he knows, what he has experience with, and that kind of a thing. So I do wonder exactly how, like, to what extent he fully understands what he made, and if he fully understands what Aizen's kind of understanding and what his plan is. So I'm really excited to see them interact with each other, because it's always like two minds that are like trying to get like 5 steps ahead of each other, but because they're trying to do that, they're kind of like exponentially like shifting things. It's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like weird galaxy brains and stuff when they're together. So very excited for that. Learning some cool things about Gain and his Zanpakuto, about how it's the fastest one. It's not necessarily like the longest, but it's the fastest, and how Ichigo was able to hopefully keep up with it fairly well. We saw that he knew that it was the contracting that was more deadly than its extension, which kind of makes me think almost of Renji's Shikai, where like, because it also extends and it has kind of the like chainsaw kind of blade feeling to it. And like, yeah, it's scary when it kind of like, he like uses it in kind of like a whip, but it's when he like pulls back on it that it kind of has its more deadly effect. And we saw that when we had the flashback with Ichigo, and you know, he used it against Ichigo, that like that was kind of the more painful thing, was him kind of like pulling this like toothed blade like through Ichigo's shoulder. So it makes me think kind of that, obviously different because they're different Seppukutos and they work completely differently, but like a little bit of a similarity between those two styles of that. And we got a little bit of Matsumoto kind of acknowledging that Gin is using his Bankai and he's like around. Hopefully she's healed fairly well. It looks like she is. I mean, Kira isn't with her anymore. No one's like working to heal her, so, or shelter her, so I'm a little bit worried about her being mixed up in the fight, but I also feel like Gin isn't going to do anything to harm her. Like, I feel like he's aware of where she is and is kind of making sure that nothing happens. But obviously that's just like me thinking about how there is some kind of connection between them. So could be wrong, but that's my theory at this point. But I am very curious about like exactly what the Hyogoku has done in terms of being in close proximity to Ichigo, if it has something to do with, you know, kind of his holification journey, the influence that it kind of had on other people in his life. I feel like that also includes Isshin and like Ichigo's family and friends and stuff like that. We saw that it probably had some connection with Sedo and Orahime's power, which I think is actually really fits with what we've seen before, where people have talked about how like I remember Vizard saying that Orahime's power is a lot similar to theirs as opposed to like just a Soul Reaper, and then we had Sedo's power felt like it kind of got like a boost, or it felt more natural in Huecomundo as opposed to the living world. So both of them have kind of these weird outlier powers where they don't fit into like Soul Reaper or Quincy or Vizard or Hollows or anything like that. So having that linked to the presence of the Hyogoku is like very, I feel like is a very good like kind of foreshadowing leading up to that kind of reveal that their powers have something to do with that influence. And I wonder, you know, because they were like, oh, we don't want to feel powerless, we want to have power, and that's kind of like their will being enacted in the living world. So I wonder how much is like Aizen's plan and how much of it is the Hogakyu like having a will of its own, as Aizen pointed out. But we only have like a handful of episodes left in this part of the arc. I have so much like adrenaline from everything that's going on, excited, but also like I'm worried about everything. I honestly don't know where this is ending and if it's gonna like truly end, because I know that there's another arc and there's more stuff being adapted. Like obviously there's more story with the manga that's going to be adapted, so I really don't know where we're gonna end up at the end of this, but I'm very excited to find out. You can click this playlist to go and see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so you don't miss the next time I post a Bleach reaction, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!